This video is sponsored by Bityard. With over 400 cryptocurrencies to choose from on their spot exchange, dozens of USDT pairs for futures trading, perpetual coin futures, trade commodities like gold, silver and oil, Forex, and major indices like Nasdaq. You can buy crypto from Bityard with over 50 different fiat currencies, using Visa, MasterCard, Google or Apple Pay. If you like, you can use their copy trade facility, follow other traders who will execute trades on your behalf, or become a copy trader yourself. So if you want a bit of that, click the link in the description. Hello everybody, welcome back. So let's recap as to what we saw on Bitcoin. We're going to have a look at RLY because the proud sponsors of my channel, being Bityard, have decided to list it. They've got some competition going. I'll leave a little something on the screen right now so you can probably see that. There's a bit of criteria you'll need to meet in order to partake in this offer. But yeah, we've looked at RLY in the past and we'll look at it in a minute as well. It's not the best thing you've ever seen, trust me. It's probably one of the worst things you've seen in a while. But with that can come serious opportunity, and we'll talk about that in just a brief moment. So a quick recap of Bitcoin then. So yesterday we were watching this as it was breaking down below this support. We said we need to wait for the daily closure. It's always about closures really rather than wicks, because we recognise that obviously since this support trend line existed, we have had wicks below it, but generally it's held up quite well, and so we ended up closing above it once again. So this makes you think that we could be on for another run up to the top side of the range here. Could be another 20% to the up, bringing us up to just short of about 50,000, but the upper 40s anyway. The upper 40s I would say, and look, we'll see where it goes from there. Traditional markets are not having a good time. There's no reason why Bitcoin should break free of the chains of traditional markets, which is very much tied into these days. But this ascending channel, which is what it is technically more likely to break down than break out. You know, on a statistical basis, when you see these, they do break down more often than break out, but it doesn't have to happen. You know, we can see them go the other way. So when we're at the bottom side of the range, you could say, oh, we'll give it a go. You know, it's a support, and that's true. And you know, so far, what was that? 6% move from the wick. You know, from the wick to the closure. It was a decent little bounce. Yeah, 6% move. It was a decent bounce, and again, we're still within this this formation, but it's not very convincing to me, to be honest. I'm not particularly convinced with the way it looks. Momentum is not really at this very moment in time in favour of either side. I'm not really feeling a massive breakdown, you know, further down than anywhere I'd be prepared to buy. My next order is going to be just above 30, around 31 or thereabouts. I'd be looking to front run this $28,000 zone by quite a large margin, to be honest with you, because I don't see momentum on either side being particularly strong. Sometimes, you know, if you've not been in Bitcoin for too long, you know, or since the beginning of the bull market, you may have not been around when this first parabolic move happened. We had a giant consolidation, took a good part of 6 months, and then an accumulation outside of this, which was the March crash. We'll call the consolidation from 6,600 to about 10,000, which is about a 55% range, right? That was the main area of accumulation before it started to really pick up and go crazy. So we're talking a 55% range on its previous accumulation that took, again, you know, close to another 6 months. If we think about this area, we're not going to mention that for now, but the 32,000 to potentially the $52,000 zone being the main area of accumulation this time round, 62% range. So I've made a video it's probably about a week ago now, because I've been on holiday with the kids, but I mean, effectively, you know, I was just trying to say, don't get lost in the chop. I strongly believe this is an accumulation range, and accumulations can be choppy, and they can be sideways, and they can be boring, right? They can bore the pants off people, bore people out of the markets, effectively, is what they do, chop and bore people out. So I think that's what we're looking at, is a choppy, sideways, boring accumulation range, where, you know, the bulls get excited one day and then the bears get excited the next day. Bulls and bears, bulls and bears, bulls and bears, and that's it really. I think this is it. We're not picking a particular direction. I don't think we're going to pick it anytime soon. I do favour the idea of it moving up to the top side of this range, which is, like I say, over a 20% move. I also favour it breaking down from this range. It is not particularly hungry for either side. There's just as much argument for one side than the other, which is why you didn't take long to go on Twitter or YouTube without getting moon boys and doom boys you know, predicting enormous moves. You know, it's going to go down to 15, 12k, man, 12k, and then you got the other side of the fence, 200k. Mark my word, 200k. Look, I think when it comes to something like Bitcoin, you know, when it comes to who's going to be the most right, I think the bulls are obviously going to be the most right in the long term. There's no reason to suggest that this isn't going to continue to go up over a prolonged period of time, like it always does and always probably will. That's almost certainly going to be the case. So I prefer the idea of an accumulation rather than a redistribution before a breakdown of significant lows. And that effectively is the deal. I feel like it's a bloody broken record on this channel talking about Bitcoin, and this is going to be crypto, I think, for a little while. And so we can look at some altcoins. Obviously, we're going to do the live stream tonight for Patreon members. We'll look at some altcoins there, but let's have a quick look at RLY for the sake of this competition on Bityard, and just for my own benefit, really, because I have made videos in the past about this, and it was similar to what we're looking at now. And we got caught short on this one, if anyone remembers. We were looking at this as a giant descending triangle, which has the potential to break out. And this was the support, and we tried to buy the support. I can't remember exactly which one it was. Probably wasn't here, it was probably around here, and it didn't work out. It broke down significantly. So that doesn't really exist. However, we can keep that in, as that is a horizontal resistance now. What we're looking at again is an enormous descending triangle. If you want to buy the support, feel free to do so. Like I say, the competition will give you some perks if you meet the criteria, but based on what we see, is a descending triangle, which is a bearish formation, more bearish than the ascending channel that we saw on Bitcoin. So this is more likely to continue to go down than up. But what we do see is quite significant bullish divergence forming here, with a very, very, very oversold, and not that this is any particularly, it's not a signal in itself, but a very oversold money flow index. You're going to get that with volume so low though. Look at that, $35,000 in a 24-hour period. Honestly, I think my 4-year-old could get through that in Brighton Pier, to be honest with you. Not that I'd let her, but she would. So that's not an enormous amount of liquidity there. Which, to be honest with you, in the past, when we get down to these significantly low levels of 24-hour trading volume, this is where the big spikes do come. This is what happened around here. I remember we were watching this on the live stream. I was saying, look, it doesn't look very good, but you know, I think the 24-hour trading volume was about 40,000 at the time. And lo and behold, it only took a little bit of money to make a 80% move all the way up to the top side of this range, and obviously continued to go down again. So it is a double-sided, double-edged sword, right? When you have 24-hour trading volume so low, because effectively, like any Ponzi scheme, I'm not slagging RLY off. I'll tell you why in a minute, but yeah, like any Ponzi scheme, let's just talk about it as a Ponzi scheme. If you're in at the bottom, especially when the volume is low, or towards the bottom, and then when the money finally starts to come in, that's where the massive, huge green candles come from. And this is what you'll see on things like, you know, the DEX exchanges and KuCoin as well, and all these smaller exchanges that have lower order books and smaller volume. Is that you'll look back and go, wow, I wish I'd got in at the bottom of that. It's done like a 10,000% or something like that in, you know, a couple of months. And that's the reason why, is because it probably was trading at volume like this or lower at the time. So it doesn't take much money to come in and suddenly just make huge green candles. Will they remain green? Probably not, but they can go significantly green, and this is why this one looks so spiky, is because generally the order books are quite thin. Now the interesting thing about RLY is, obviously we've got our Bityard listing today. Now Bityard obviously is not going to make too much difference to the trading volume, but we do have it on Coinbase Pro. It's on Crypto.com, Gate.io, Cubase, KuCoin, Pionex. You know, outside of Binance, it's on the biggest exchanges, and it's also, if you saw there, it's paired with fiat currency as well, which makes me think that, you know, despite looking and acting like a shitcoin, that there's probably something going on behind closed doors. There's probably a reason why it's been listed on such top tier exchanges. I'm not saying, you know, KuCoin's a top tier exchange, I mean, but Coinbase and Crypto.com and Pionex, you know, they are quite, you know, they're quite large exchanges, aren't they? And especially Coinbase as well, which has always surprised me when I saw this. And I'm like, this is on Coinbase. Why does it look and act like a shitcoin, really? So there is probably something, you know, beyond this chart, you know, for, you know, I suppose Coinbase, you know, it's kind of slowly losing its I wouldn't say it's losing its top tier standard, but it's, yeah, its standards of you know, listing coins of, you know, major significance or whatever, it seems to have subsided slightly. They seem to be quite particular, and now they're kind of listing things not willy-nilly, but they're kind of listing things, you know, more than they used to. But they did list this. So it does make me wonder, why would they list it? It's been paired with fiat currency, which is good for those who like fiat currency. I certainly quite like it, you know. but to have that option anyway is, you know, it's interesting. But this chart looks pretty god awful. So if I was to, you know, I'm not saying buy it, certainly not. I mean, like I say, just because I'm sponsored by Bityard, I'm not going to shill something that doesn't look particularly good. But it does have bullish divergence on the daily. It also has it on the weekly and on the 4 hourly. We can have a quick look at that as well, just to show it. But outside of that, the trading volume is so low that sometimes when we see trading volume so low, the charts can be misleading. They can not be useless. I mean, there has obviously been relevance to this chart. You know, the consolidation even on that last pump came right up to the top of it, but you know, we're below all major moving averages. You know, Bitcoin is still dictating the overall market. Bitcoin is technically in a bearish formation, although it does offer a potential 20% move to the up. Now it honestly does do that, but we recognize that it's in a choppy sideways range, and altcoins are going to be in a much worse position if it continues to do that chop, because on every pump that Bitcoin does, altcoins will go up. On every drop, altcoins will go down, and probably go down further. So I stress over and over and over again, especially on the live streams, that the main thing to watch and probably to trade is really going to be Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the market right now. And while Bitcoin's doing this, it's not going to leave much space to trade altcoins or to hold on to altcoins for a prolonged period of time, not until the main components of any kind of alt season that have been met, and they're far from doing that right now. So I won't even bother going into those reasons. However, there can be opportunity for serious bounces, and this could potentially be one of them. But again, you know, I know, you know, Bityard have just listed it, and you know, they are the sponsor, but I wouldn't suggest, you know, that this is a millionaire starter kit or anything like that. We all can see, you don't need me to tell you, that this is a continuous downtrend, and it looks like an absolute pile of crap. So recognizing that it is a pile of crap is the first thing you want to do. If you want to play the bullish divergence, feel free to do that, but it's not, I wouldn't say, anything much more than potentially just a gamble at this point. So I personally, you know, it's difficult for me to pull the trigger on something that looks like this based on effectively a gamble. I don't really like to gamble, it's not really for me, but it could pay off, and I suppose that's the nature of a gamble. We are at the bottom, or arguably a little lower. We are at the bottom of this triangle formation, so with that in mind, this could be you know, an area where you could buy and expect, you know, one of these big stabs up, 50, 80, 100%. If we break outside of this descending trend, you know, this consolidation trend line, if we break outside of there, there's every chance that we continue on. But with the volume being the main problem for this, which is the main problem, to be honest with you, like I say, it's listed on all these exchanges, but nobody wants to trade it. With the volume being so low, any big pump is likely to be sold off quite quickly, like we've seen on all these wicks. Huge wick up here, so it's a huge wick. So from this to here, 100%, 185%. From here to here, that was 150%. What was this little spiky spike up here? This was a 67%, and the last one that we looked at this on the stream, and then the next day it moved to 90%. So it does do these moves, and it does them generally when the volume is particularly low and it comes down to an area of significance. Maybe this could be it, because it's a horizontal trend line all the way back down to its starting point over here. So there is a chance that this one does one of those big moves. But there's also a very strong chance that this goes into the opposite of a blue sky breakout. It just gets sucked back down into the void of darkness down here, despite having the bullish divergence on the weekly, daily, and the 4 hourly. Like I say, if you're into it, if you fancy a little gamble, you might as well give it a try. But it would be a gamble. Recognise that there's just as much to say that it's going to do a big spike than it would do, a big spike down. I think if we were going to see any giant volatile moves on it, the chances are is that you would likely see a spike up, because when the volume is so low, there's not enough pressure on it to go down to that much of an extent. It's just going to dwindle down. It'll be a slow burn, slow bleed out. If there is going to be a volatile move on this one, it would be to the up. But am I saying that that's going to happen? No. Is there a chance it happens from this level? Yeah, there is a chance. But I think it's going to happen. I think it's a gamble, and that's the most important thing to stress. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with you there. Live stream tonight if you're a member of the Patreon. If you're not, feel free to join. Otherwise, Telegram's free, or the link's in the description. And I hope you have a nice day, and take it easy.
Pas en pite.